Hey everyone, Good Kyle here. This video is going to be about the Resistance series in general and what it meant for me while playing Burning Skies here. I'm making this primarily because I believe Burning Skies is going to be the last Resistance game, unless I guess Sony or Insomniac Games gets money hungry, but let's hope that doesn't happen. But let's go with number one first. Resistance 1 introduced the Chimera into, 1950, 1940, 1950 Earth, and they start taking over stuff, and you're Nathan Hale in England, and, America's trying to help out England, and though you don't know, the backdrop of Nathan Hale is he's part of an elite squad of people who are infected with the virus, and they can do all this stuff, but you don't really find that out until number 2, which was a confusing plot point, but that doesn't really matter. Resistance 1 was a PS3 launch title, and it was really good. It actually had scares. It was a good shooter. There was a good story, good gameplay, and even the music itself was really just, I guess, depressing, and it really set the mood for the entire game. Like, you knew this was not going to be a happy game. The people literally are going to die. You're not going to expect some happy-go-lucky endings, and that was one of the first games for me where you knew people were going to die, possibly main characters. And don't even get me started on multiplayer. I mean, for those of you who've played Resistance 1 multiplayer, you know for a fact, Manchester map, 32 players capture the flag, that map was huge. It was fun. There was multiple buildings to go into, especially the church in the very middle of the map. And it just had so many good times. Multiplayer in general was great. And then later on, the community just kind of died out like any others. And then Resistance 2 came along. And this pretty much just continued the story of Nathan Hale in America when the Chimera attacked there instead of England. And in this game, it was pretty much everything Resistance 1 was, except better, except for maybe horrible face animations, but that's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is this game was like Resistance 1, but better, and it opened up this entire lore, I guess. When you collected the journals, when you talked with Dr. Malakoff, when you collected Grey Tech in the multiplayer, the co-op, it opened this huge lore story where, the Chimera fought this other race, and they lost, so that's why the Chimera disappeared. And then you find out, for sure, the Chimera didn't come from outer space. They were actually from the ground, in Earth. They're not really technically aliens. They're just, crab people, if you want to call them that. But it was just this really interesting lore story, because basically it pretty much said the Chimera were on Earth first. They fought another race of beings, and they lost, and Grey Tech was because of that, and this Grey Tech has this awesome ability, as you'll see. Let me pick it up in this video here. But it just opened up this entire world of possibilities, and it was just so amazing. And real quickly, the multiplayer Resistance 2 was good, but there was that one problem with the Wraith, and it being overpowered, but I ranked kind of high in that game, so I liked it, but that's my portion, or my take on the multiplayer there. But with all that lore from the second story, this is where I was disappointed, as I mentioned in my Resistance Burning Skies first 15 minutes video. I was so disappointed with Resistance 3, because all it had was Capelli, who, spoiler alert I guess, killed Nathan Hale at the end of the second game because he succumbed to the virus that he got infected with in the first game. But it was just Capelli trying to protect his family and whatnot, and going on a trip to, I think it was New York, I can't quite remember, it's just so disappointing, to close this one, conduit that keeps open a portal from the Chimera's new place or whatever to keep him alive. And that's one of the things that irked me. Just because Capelli can destroy this one thing, Chimera are instantly beaten, that's just an end-all be-all dream ending. That didn't make sense to me. And what's even worse is they closed off the series, or the trilogy, with nothing happening. Just Capelli, spoiler alert, with Capelli going back to his family all happy, yay. But there was no mention of Grey Tech, there was no mention of other space worldly beings, there was nothing, and I was so disappointed with that. You would expect something big to happen in that third entry into the series, but it wasn't. It was pretty much not even a continuation of the story besides the characters. That's how disappointing it was for me. And then the multiplayer was just awful too. It was like Call of Duty, and it was very, very bad. And again, I was so disappointed with that because you ever play one of those game series where some of the games are a story and it continues from previous games, and then there's just that one game in the series that doesn't really take place within the story. It could have pretty much been the first game and you wouldn't have even noticed. That's what the third one was for me. It wasn't continuing off Resistance 2 that much besides the characters. And I'm still so disappointed. There was so many possibilities with the Chimera possibly facing this other race again. There was a possibility at the end of Resistance 2, spoiler, where it was speculated, and most likely true, that the Chimera were actually moving Earth to a different universe for their own purposes. And that would have really, really been something new in any game, let alone the shooter genre. And again, I'm just so disappointed that they didn't capitalize on it, and instead it was just this lone, depressing, I guess the Road type feel game where you just destroyed this one thing and you instantly kill all people. And that made no sense to me because based on the past games in the series, everyone was just getting slaughtered. There was nothing you could do to stop them. And the second game introduced Gray Tech, which was a possibility, and then the alien race. And I think I've covered this enough, but you guys get my point. I'm so disappointed with just the third game. And now the reason why I'm talking about this on Resistance Burning Skies is not only is it probably, most likely, the last game in the series, but to me, it's a good addition between the story or game number 1 and 2 because it's not about Hale. It's a separate character. He has his own thing going, and the Chimera invasion is pretty much just beginning in America. But the point I'm trying to make is the Resistance series will probably forever be, I guess, in my heart with good games, but one of those series that just ended in a bad way. And in my opinion, pretty much that equals Mass Effect 3's ending for me. Despite Mass Effect 3 being more, I guess, nonsensical as Resistance was just very disappointing. But that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Burning Skies so far is actually turning out pretty good. Sometimes the controls will fight you. I mean, it's a portable gaming with not really as much as big dual sticks, but you have to expect that. So far, story's good, graphics good, gameplay good, voice acting good. I honestly don't know why all the reviews are like scathing, and I do think that they're right on some points because, for example, I'll touch upon this in my review for the game further down the line, but the multiplayer is pretty much untouchable. It's just not working pretty much, and even with the fixes, it's kind of bland. I mean, it looks like just an add-on. And the story itself so far, and if it's true of what I've heard, it's kind of short. So I can see why they're justifying their scores, but overall the experience is good, and I do recommend if you do have the money to waste or you have the ability to rent a portable gaming game, I definitely do it. But be sure, guys, definitely to stick around and check out my official Resistance Burning Skies review, which will hopefully come out on Tuesday. So thanks everyone for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe.